Welcome back for episode 4 of series 2 of 5 Things from Google. If you haven't been here before, then in a nutshell, I take a topic from the news or about the week in general. I type that phrase into Google and then present the 5 newest or most relevant items about it. I will do a little research, ensuring that as far as possible, the information is accurate, and when I release the episode, I make sure that all the web pages and sources I used are given as well. In Series 2, I'm releasing the episodes as both podcasts available on iTunes and also on my website 5thingsfromgoogle.com. It's also available on my YouTube channel called 5 Things From. As I say each episode, when I quote from a website or a source, I will quote verbatim, which means that it can happen there's a swear word. Sometimes adult themes can be involved, which may make the episode unsuitable for work and also where such content would be frowned upon. I will let you know if that's going to occur in an episode where I can, but viewer caution is advised generally. Now recently I was getting a coffee in an establishment I've used a lot, and whilst queuing it occurred to me that the barista serving me fitted perfectly into that stereotype of the man-bunned metrosexual that we've come to expect. This look or fad seems to have taken over the coffee barista universe. No one can really point to where it started and why it caught on, just like no one can really say why one video on YouTube goes viral, while multiple others with similar content, sometimes even with better quality and better production values, do not. Now, Wikipedia defines a fad as a trend or a craze in any form of collective behaviour that develops within a culture, a generation, or a social group, and which impulse is followed enthusiastically by a group of people for a finite period of time. Sometimes people use the words fad and trend interchangeably. Fads, however, can be distinguished from trends in 3 ways: their reason for rise, their incubation period and lifespan, and their scope. Trends have explainable rises and are driven by functional needs. They reflect a deep-rooted human desire and need, while fads are generally driven by the emotional need to purchase. Trends rise slowly over time, but fads' popularity spike quickly and end up dying out just as quickly. Fads might last for just weeks or months. Scope is also a factor. A trend encompasses several brands and products, which can reach a large variety of people. A fad typically encompasses just one brand or product with limited appeal and a narrow scope. So, here is this week's episode in 5 Things from Google, and it's on fads and trends. Number 1. Historical fads. Let's start with historical fads. First up, bad Elizabethan teeth. As a queen, Elizabeth had access to some of the most luxurious foods that were on offer. Her food reflected the wealth and power of England and was an important status symbol. Much on what was offered in the Elizabethan court differed very little to the food served in the previous centuries, but the one major change was the access to New World foods. Perhaps the item that gained popularity most rapidly was sugar, and Elizabeth herself was thought to have had a sweet tooth. Sugar had been used within her father Henry's kitchens, but the expansion of the world allowed this precious ingredient to be more readily accessible. Sugar was a high-status ingredient. It was more expensive than honey, which had long been used as a natural sweetener, and it was because of the requirement for it to be imported. Unsurprisingly, the eating of refined sugars, such as those produced from sugarcane, rather than natural sugars like honey or those found in fruits, caused an impact on Elizabethan teeth. Not only was sugar now being consumed at lavish desserts, but due to believed medicinal properties, it was even being used to clean teeth. Secondly, consumption. Tuberculosis, or TB, is an infectious disease which generally affects the lungs, but can also affect other parts of the body. The classic symptoms of active TB are a chronic cough with blood-containing sputum, fever, night sweats, and weight loss. The historical term consumption came about due to the weight loss. Now, historically, all the most fabulous, glamorous artistic people were dying of consumption, or were writing about people dying of consumption. The Bronte sisters, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Robert Burns, Thoreau, Keats, Chopin, Picasso's first wife, and Balzac, to name just a few. While people didn't actually contract TB on purpose, there was this idea that having it meant you had an artistic temperament. As a result, it became very fashionable to be very skinny and pale, in imitation of the disease's effects. Finally in this section, neck ruffs. Starting out as a simple ruffled collar, neck ruffs grew larger and stiffer until by the late 16th century they appeared more like giant frilly yokes than neck openings. The biggest ruffs extended to over a foot wide and required wire supports to hold them up. The many layered, stiffly starched ruffs would be laced closed around the neck and held in place with often hundreds of pins. Frequently adorned with jewels or metallic thread, ladies' ruffs were larger than men's and typically encased the entire neck, chin, shoulders and upper chest. Number 2. Technology fads. Now, a number of industries are well known for their fads: fashion, food, health, but technology has experienced just as many short-lived crazes over the years. First up, 3D TVs. Remember when a television wasn't considered high-end unless it featured 3D technology and came with several pairs of glasses? It seemed TV manufacturers noticed cinema goers were paying extra money for that third dimension and decided they wanted a piece of the action. And for a while, it looked as if the future of television was here to stay. The 3D feature had been offered on select television since 2010, when the theatrical success of Avatar in 3D helped encourage renewed interest in the technology. In addition to a 3D-capable TV, it required specialized glasses for each viewer and the 3D version of a TV show or movie, although some TVs also offered a simulated 3D effect mode. LG and Sony were the last two companies backing the standard, and both have dropped all support for the format on modern televisions. Any 3D content you still own can be played back on any TV that supports it, of course, but none of the companies that are at the CES 2017 show are shipping it on any future panels. Next up, Pokemon Go. At its height, you couldn't look at any news publication, be it on TV or the internet, without being overwhelmed by the latest Pokemon Go story. But that's not surprising, considering how at one point an estimated 45 million people were logging on to play the game each day. The mobile title was so popular, lawsuits were launched against developer Niantic over the swarms of marauding players, damaging beaches in Holland and neighborhoods in the US. It was used to lure victims and rob people, got banned in Iran and China, and even resulted in some parents naming their babies after the characters. With over 500 million downloads, the game is enjoyed by players worldwide. The developers, however, did not introduce new elements quickly enough to stop players getting bored. So far, there has been little in the way of new gameplay aspects. Besides failing to introduce new features, Pokemon Go also removed popular ones like the tracking ability. The lesson here is that communicating with your customers is paramount, particularly when things go wrong. Otherwise, you risk losing their confidence that you care about them and know how to fix their problems. Lastly in this section, e-book readers. Readers committed to physical books can give a sigh of relief, as new figures reveal that e-book sales are falling while sales of paper books are growing, and the shift is being driven by younger generations. Nielsen's survey of 2016 attributed the increase in print sales to children's fiction and to younger generations preferring physical books to e-readers. A 2013 survey by the youth research agency Voxburner found that 62% of 16 to 24-year-olds preferred print books to e-books. The most popular reason given was, "I like to hold the product." Advances in technology have also been behind the e-book reader's slow demise. The devices were still able to boast global shipments of 7.1 million units in 2016, but that's a far cry from the 23.2 million readers shipped during the peak of their popularity in 2011, and it's the lowest number since 2009. And there's two big reasons why dedicated e-book reader sales have fallen by almost 1/3 in the last 5 years: tablets and smartphones. Number 3. Children's fads. As one teacher wrote recently, "As another school year comes to a close, there are many things I look back on fondly, lessons I tried for the first time that had kids continuing the conversation out of the door and into the halls, faculty room jokes and conversations that colleagues that reminded me why we keep doing this job. However, there are quite a few things that I'm happy to get away from. These are the student fads, trends and topics I can only pray will fade away over the holidays." Let's start with bottle flipping. In case you missed it, the bottle flip craze was an internet-driven fad that swept many countries earlier this year. The challenge was to flip a partly filled water bottle and try to make it land upright. It's quite a striking phenomenon in which the bottle appears to stop rotating before performing a vertical descent. As Dominic Verstaegen wrote in the Arizona Central newspaper, we're supposed to be proud of our kids and interested in their activities, no matter what endeavour they choose. I've played Lego, I've watched gymnastics, and I've suffered through the worst television shows you could possibly construct. But I cannot fake enthusiasm for bottle flipping. My parenting failures are exposed. Next up, fidget spinners. Okay, confessions first. Have I got one? Yes. Have I bought the kids one or three? Yes. Do I find myself using one at work sometimes? Yes. In recent months, fidgets have taken the Western world by storm, knocking out last year's big fad, water bottle flipping. Fidget spinners have been billed as a way to relieve tension and help students focus, although there is no convincing scientific evidence that this is true. Catherine Isbister, a professor of computational media at the University of California, Santa Cruz, has studied fidget items. She observes that students have long been clicking, tapping and clutching. She thinks that fidget props can be useful by helping students with attention issues to focus, and those with anxiety disorders to maintain calm. Some studies have shown that squeezing a stress ball or squirming and rocking about while learning can improve focus. But the problem with fidget toys in their current form is that unlike a stress ball or the worry stone, which can be squeezed or rubbed, they can be distracting to other classmates. Not only do they require eye-hand coordination, most students quickly grow bored and attempt an array of increasingly sophisticated tricks. Finally in this section, dabbing. Dabbing, or the dab, is a simple dance move in which a person drops the head into the bent crook of a slanted arm, often while raising the opposite arm in a parallel direction, but out straight. Since 2015, it's also been used as a gesture of triumph or playfulness, becoming a youthful American cultural sensation and internet meme. The move looks similar to someone sneezing into the inside of their elbow. As some have pointed out though, as fabs go, it's a pretty good one. Firstly, it's free. Secondly, you can't lose one. They don't create clutter. And when performed by kindy kids, it's kinda cute. And best of all, it's a great way for parents to embarrass their kids. That last one is probably why the dab will die out more than any others. If your parents can do it, then it's going to lose its cool pretty quickly. Number 4. Trends of 2017. As mentioned earlier, trends tend to creep on more slowly over time and are usually things that will become ingrained into the culture and society. Some of the trends which have started to infiltrate our world are: firstly, AI, or artificial intelligence, is everywhere. AI is not new, but this year marked when it really started to actually become recognized and started to be useful. AI is no longer a sci-fi story. Today, AI technology has many applications. It's behind the recommendations that stream media services make based on consumption habits. It's in the assistants on our phones and as advisors in areas such as healthcare and legislation. And consumers believe it's here to stay. More people want an AI advisor at work, 35%, than those who do not, 24%. And even though more than 2 in 5 are against it, almost 1 in 4 would even like an AI as a leader of a company. But while consumers see possibilities with AI, they also worry about risks. Almost half of respondents were concerned that AI robots will soon make a lot of people lose their jobs. A third would rather technologically enhance their own intelligence than rely on an AI assistant, and almost as many want to upload their minds to the internet and become AIs themselves. While that may or may not become possible, the very thought points to an existential dilemma consumers are already starting to face. Number 2, the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things, or IoT, is an ecosystem of ever-increasing complexity. It is the next level of automation of every object in our life, and convergence of new technologies will make IoT implementation much easier and faster, which in turn will improve many aspects of our life at home and at work and in between. IoT is a rather abstract and may be difficult for consumers to relate to, but as they increasingly use automated applications, they're gradually discovering how IoT can support their needs. In this way, consumers set the pace for IoT adoption. Many already have apps on their smartphones, for example, that can remote control media playback, house alarms, and can even unlock cars or steer drones in flight. IoT is one of the transformational trends that will shape the future of businesses in 2017 and beyond. Many firms see big opportunity in IoT uses, and enterprises start to believe that IoT holds the promise to enhance customer relationships and drive business growth by improving quality, productivity and reliability on one side, and on the other side reducing costs, risks and theft. By having the right IoT model, companies will be rewarded with new customers, better insights and improved customer satisfaction, to mention just a few benefits. Finally in this section, augmented personal reality. In early 2016, few consumers knew what AR was, and even fewer had tried it out. But in the course of just a few weeks, AR became the talk of the whole world, with hundreds of millions of people hitting the streets to play Pokemon Go. Now consumers want to use that same technology to customize their very experience of reality. We're already accustomed to receiving personalized search results, media feeds, advertising, and even spam. Half of advanced internet users would like to use AR glasses, for example, to light up dark surroundings in order to highlight potentially dangerous people approaching. Now, although this changes the fundamental way that we can perceive reality around us, it doesn't stop there. Consumers also want to use AR to change the world into something that reflects their own personal moods. Around 2 in 5 want to change the way their surroundings look, and even how people appear to them. Ways in which AR could help businesses include better training facilities, more efficient workplaces, location independence, and revolutionary product design. Number 5. Future trends. Fortune.com have identified a bunch of trends that are happening now, which will affect the way we work and live in the future. These include, firstly, globalization. A major shift in which business is conducted is occurring now. McKinsey estimates that half of the world's largest companies will be headquartered in what are now emerging markets, such as Brazil, India, and Eastern European countries. Pressure from global competition and other factors resulted in over 40% of the companies that were in the Fortune 500 in the year 2000 falling off the list by 2010. These were replaced largely by new global entrants and technology companies. After the shock of the Brexit vote and the US presidential election, we're entering a global geopolitical landscape that's more uncertain and potentially more disruptive to businesses than in 2016. Globalization in particular is in the crosshairs as new world leaders take charge. It's not just Donald Trump's election that's signaling a change in the structure of globalism's future, says Mary Meehan, founder of research consultancy Panoramics Global. In a Forbes article, across Europe, candidates that embrace isolationism and nationalism have found favour with audience unsure of unmoved by globalism's enticements. Next up, the explosion of data. Experts estimate that from 2009 to 2020, data will grow by 4,300%. That data will be in the form of content from the past that can be readily structured into a database, and will also increasingly include unstructured data, such as that found in social media sites like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Vine, and so on. Big data is moving to a new stage of maturity, one that promises even greater business impact and industry disruption over the course of the coming decade. As big data initiatives mature, organizations are now combining the agility of big data processes with the scale of artificial intelligence capabilities to accelerate the delivery of business value. Whereas statisticians and early data scientists were often limited to working with sample sets of data, big data has enabled data scientists to access and work with massive sets of data without restriction. Rather than relying on representative data samples, data scientists can now rely on the data itself in all of its granularity, nuance, and detail. Finally, there's a huge growth in life expectancy in most nations. The life expectancy of every person living in a city like London is getting longer by an average of 1 year in every 4 years. That's without the miracles of medical technology, pharma, and healthcare that we can expect in the next 50 years. Life expectancy is growing even faster in many of the poorest nations. By 2040, we will know all of the secrets of non-aging animals, of which there are many types, and we'll be finding new ways to slow down aging in wealthy humans. There are great upsides to an aging population, like having more children that will know their grandparents and even their great-grandparents. Healthy elderly citizens can share their wealth of knowledge with younger generations, and they can continue to make valuable contributions to society. However, with people living longer, associated medical problems will place a heavy burden on the health system. Here are some potential impacts. a rise in age-related chronic illnesses, increasing need for specialised healthcare workers, increasing need for long-term care, and healthcare costs increase. Whilst I think most of us would love to stick around to see the future and watch our children grow, with an increase in the population, it'll be interesting viewing to see how our planet, with its finite resources, copes. So, that's 5 fads and trends for this episode. As always, if you have any comments, then please email them to 5thingsfrom@gmail.com, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a comment below. If you're listening to the podcast, then thanks for listening, and please subscribe if you haven't already on iTunes. I'll see you back here again soon. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching.